All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to Totally Baseless. I am Chris Vitali, and we have a good one for you today. Everybody remembers when you were a kid, Riff. Reading is fundamental, right? So today I was thinking we'll talk about Biff a little bit. Baseball is fundamentals. Seems like lately we've been seeing, more routine plays on the base paths or in the field just getting botched completely and people complaining about a lack of fundies are being taught and it's making its way to the major league level. So I want to talk about something today that seems so simple, but at the same time, it's proving to be anything but. So joining me today, I have Bill Pulsipher and Will Ohman, a couple of previous guests of the show. Fellas, how are you today?
I'm good. All good. Good to be here.
I'm tremendous.
Excellent. Well, welcome back. And let's get into this a little bit. There's something, spring training's kind of really underway now. Everybody's reported, position players are showing up. So I wanted to talk a little bit about first something that you guys as pitchers need to be fundamentally sound with, the old PFP. Now, a lot of people probably don't even know what that is. They think that they go online, that means profile picture on their Twitter or something like that, right? So let's get into that a little bit. And Bill, talk a little bit about a PFP, what it is, just how you work on that in spring training.
Well, PFP is pitcher's fielding practice, and it's one of the mainstays of spring training. And obviously for me, as a young minor leaguer in an instructional league, which is like a spring training in the fall, where you go to learn your fundamentals. And obviously it consists of a lot of covering first base. And it's not just the routine play, where they're hitting it right to the first baseman and he's running over there and flipping it to you. They're moving the first baseman around. They're heading the ball hit between the first baseman and the second baseman. One of the toughest plays in all of baseball is the one that dribbles out just past home plate between the pitcher's mound and first base. You do it over and over and over again. And there's those players that take pride in their fundamentals and in their PFP. So they know that, those outs that you need to get, outs have to be outs. And that's where it kind of all starts to begin, is in spring training. And then, I always played on teams where at some point in time during the season, we would do it again during the season, after you come home from a road trip or something like that. But very important part of the game that is overlooked at the younger ages, at the age group, but it's definitely something if you get into pro baseball that we took pride in that. And I know I took pride in trying to be the best I could be as a fielder once I let go of the baseball. Had a hard time covering first base sometimes because you fall off to third base as a left-handed pitcher, but definitely something that you need to take pride in.
And Will, how about you? How important is it? How much do you notice that they're working on it? Get into PFP a little bit.
Okay, so PFP, every spring I called it confirming that first base is in the location that Abner Doubleday put it.
Right.
We all know where it is. It is 90 feet to the east of home plate. Here we go. We're going to go over there. And there's two parts of PFP. One, you go over there and it is a non-negotiable. I used to get on the pro guys when I was coaching with the Cardinals. It's a non-negotiable. You hit the inside part of the bag with your right foot, period. You do that so that you don't get stepped on by the runner. The outside part of the bag is his. The inside part of the bag is yours. You have a responsibility to do your job, period. Any ball hit to the right side, period. You bolt over there until somebody tells you to stop. It doesn't matter if you fall left, fall right, fall forward, do a somersault, Aroldis Chapman after the game. It doesn't matter. Get your ass over. The part that bothers me the most is that the element that's left out is pitchers being athletes and learning how to throw a ball versus pitch a ball. And yeah. I've run clinics all over the world on this. And the first thing we need to do is learn how to play a game of catch. Because and I always show it to young players, and I go, okay, so you started playing catch and you were working in your pitching motion, and that's great. Good for you. You're going to be a good pitcher. I was like, tell me the time that you field a comebacker to you, turn, face the first baseman, and do a wind up, leg lift and everything, and throw it over to first base. Do you do that? And they all go, no. And I go, why? And invariably, because I'd look like an idiot. And I was like, correct. I was like, so why are you playing catch like an idiot? I was like, go ahead, be an athlete, learn how to throw a ball. Because, like Bill said, that tough play where you've got to come right in front of the plate, scoop the ball, turn around blindly, by the way, blindly, and wheel and deal and throw a firm strike to the first baseman. You need to be an athlete. So let's train athletes first, pitchers second. That's my whole deal. So the first 30 minutes of practice, I'll hammer that down on a 14U team. I'll hammer that down on a professional team. Be an athlete first.
How much more difficult do you think it is, as to Bill's point, as a lefty, to spin and throw if the ball's going?
If you have good footwork and you know how to throw a ball, it's not a problem, because there's 3 different throws that you make from the mound. You pitch, that's your motion. Okay, then you got to field the ball, whether it be a throw to first, second, or third on double play or a bunt or something like that. And then there's a third throw where you're doing a pickoff move, and that pickoff move is most likely on a spin move to second base, or a right-hander picking off to first base. It's the throw that's most like the catcher, where you just get the ball to your ear as quickly as possible and then just deliver. So it's quick feet, quick arm action throw. And, you have to be adaptable within those things. And that's why, like in training modules and such, I like to use a football to train a good arm action, just because if you get the ball to your ear and then throw like a catcher and like a quarterback would throw a football, that is the cleanest, shortest arm action you can possibly have. It gained like some popularity in pitching mechanics when Lucas Giolito switched over to a shorter arm action, and then you saw people copycatting and, oh, that's great. And it only works with certain guys who have certain lower half movements. It's not garden variety. Everybody gets to do that, but it simplifies things greatly. Now you can take that same football and you can do a long arm swing like a Tim Tebow, which is inappropriate for the NFL, but it does show a good arm swing because the ball is heavier, and you can actually cast the ball out there and teach a good arm action with the football as well.
Now, Bill, do you want to add to that at all?
No, I think Will's pretty much nailing it right on the head. I agree with everything that he said so far. I actually teach the exact same things. We learn how to play catch first before we learn how to throw. To pitch, I have to tell my guys all the time that I work with, we're not lifting our leg, because as soon as you tell them to start playing catch and they think they're being pitchers, they start lifting their leg like they're pitchers. I'll use John Lester as an example, as a guy that had a little bit of an issue with throwing to bases. Yeah. And it seemed like every time I ever saw him throwing a ball, it would be him lifting his leg like he was a pitcher. So totally dead on with the be an athlete first. With the spinning and throwing, it basically comes down to what we talk about with the PFPs, and that's part of your repetitions. Baseball is so much repetition, and then taking your fundamentals seriously when you're in your PFPs, and not just saying, oh shit, we got to go do this again. Here we go doing pickoff moves, or here we go doing bunt plays, as opposed to saying, you know what, I have a chance to get some reps in here, so when this happens in a game time, I feel comfortable into the situation where I have to run and go get the ball quickly, spin, and like Will said, blindly throw the ball to a base. So I think Will's made some great points. I totally agree with everything he said, and it basically comes down to taking your job is pitcher, but your job after your pitch is to become one of the players. So taking it seriously and getting the reps in, like it's your batting practice or like it's your ground ball practice, whatever it may be. You got to take it seriously, so you can get in those situations, because, man, a lot of times it's a nut cutting situation, it's a do or die situation, and you need to feel comfortable in your movements that you're going to be able to execute the play.
It's funny you said take it seriously, because here on Totally Baseless, we don't take everything too seriously. So I do have to ask you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen it all. You guys have gone through a bunch of spring trainings and PFPs, and so I'm sure you guys have seen something terrible happen in that during that drill. And Bill, I know you have one, so I'm going to go to you on this one. You don't have to name names, but I know you have one.
Well, I'll start off with a little bit of backstory with the PFP and this coach from the minor leagues with the Mets. His name was Jesus Hernandez, a great guy, great coach. He wanted us to take our PFP seriously, and he took it seriously with his hitting of the ball and that. And if you screwed a play up, we would have to take a buddy. That's what he would always say. And you'd have to, if you screw a play up, you're out to center field and back with that player. And usually one guy would get singled out, and we'd make sure that he had to go every single time that somebody screwed up. But Jesus liked to hit rocket balls with comebackers. And we didn't really always do them from 60 feet either. We would be there was a field there, the Mets minor league complex was field 3, which was like the half field. And that's where all the PFP would go down. And he loved to hit rocket balls.
Those are
and
awful.
He hit a one hopper one time, and I'm not going to say any names who it was or anything like that, but he took it right. The kid took it right off the nuts, and he actually exploded one of his testicles. Yeah, terribly. And that was when the move was then made to a softer ball by the organization, that they were going to decide we're not going to let Jesus hit missiles at people's nuts anymore, because as pitchers, a lot of us don't wear cups, because it's just a little awkward to move around in. So, that was the end of the hitting baseballs as hard as you possibly can back at the pitchers to try to make them to take it serious, because like I said, some guys don't take it seriously, and chances are. What
year was that with the Mets?
Oh, this had to be 1993 in instructional league.
They moved to the Incredible in 1993. They were front runners then.
There was an episode that made it kind of, all right, we can't do this anymore. We can't be having guys getting their nuts blasted.
Yeah, I mean, it took the teams I played for. I mean, there were some of them that were still doing it in the early aughts.
Really?
Back to 1900s. No, early aughts, man. We were still killing it with the hard baseball off the shin. I thought it was freaking stupid, just because I was like, look, the fielding position that you've got me in to begin with is not the fielding position I'm in.
I'm ever going to end up in, right?
100%. Like, my back is turned, my foot is towards the third base line,
right?
And that ball up the middle, I'm looking for other people to help me out.
Well, I tell you what, I'm sure you got to this point too, because you pitched long enough. And I actually love to see my son when he was in high school learning this, is because we fall off to third base, any ball that is hit to my right, to my glove hand side, I taught myself, and I'm sure you did too, that it's time to get that glove out of the way, because there's a guy that gets paid to make plays standing back there behind you at shortstop, or there used to be, but now I guess he's back there again. But how many times you move your glove out of the way on a ball that's hit to your right, because you've fallen off far enough to the third base side that you're basically in line with the shortstop, and don't touch that ball, because there's nothing like getting the ground ball to short that ends up being a dead ball out in no man's land between second base and third base, because you hit it off your.
I saw it in the college tournament that I played in, that there were some obviously better athletic pitchers than others who would call people off on a pop-up and go, no, I've got this. I mean, I'm talking about one that was a legit big league pop-up, and the pitcher called everybody off, and he caught it right on top of the mound, did a good job. He didn't have to back up the mound or anything like that. But yeah, for sure, from my experience, the worst thing I wanted, and what I saw multiple times, was the old 1-6-3 on a put out at first base, where it just tips off the pitcher's glove, right, and then the shortstop has to react in an odd way and then make a great play. And it's like, dude, just get out of the way, man.
Yeah, don't
that
touch
guy
it.
is
Don't
far better at it. I took it to an extreme where if the ball was hit back up the middle, especially the one that was kind of behind me that I could reach for, even if it was slow, I'd like tuck my butt out of the way and be like, no, don't get near me.
Yep.
But I mean, isn't your natural reaction to try and stop the ball? I mean, how do you, as a pitcher, how do you kind of talk yourself out of doing that?
Reps.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not
really. It's just
how do you get a good fastball? Throw it. How do you get a good slider? Throw it. You got to practice. It's fashionable to talk about the 10,000 rule, 10,000 hours, but it's so true.
It's so true.
You just want to make it muscle memory, and you just got to get it done. This is my job. This is what I'm here to do. I want to be perfect.
when I hear it on when you watch broadcasts of the games now, and they'll say, "Oh, it's just a natural reaction," I'm like, okay, well, nature can be altered, and you can change your thought process and your thought pattern as to, obviously, if it's right back at you, the first thought is to knock the ball down before it fucking kills you or hits you in the nuts.
Sure.
But the ball's to your side, over reps and over time of being out there, you get to the point to where and that's why when you get a guy on base, it's very important for you to turn and for you to look and to see where everybody is standing on the field. So for those types of situations where I get the ball just hit to my right, I'm not touching that ball. I'm leaving that ball go. Because like Will said, that that ball that hits off of your glove, and we're trying to get a 1-6-3 for the put out at first with nobody on base, that's, outs have to be outs. You get 27 of them in a big league game. Outs have to be outs, and that's at any level. That's whether it's 18 outs like in a little league game or 21 outs in a high school game or whatever it may be, you have to get outs. So if you're touching baseballs that you shouldn't be touching, that should be outs, you're making it even that much more difficult. To now we're on to 28 outs.
Just to double up on that, it was funny. Bill and I are talking from the pro perspective here. And I called games all weekend for a D1 college tournament, and then immediately left a game yesterday between two teams and went and coached a 14U practice with my buddy Joe Borchard.
Oh,
and
nice.
Talk about an excellent segue here that I'm feeding you. But at this 14U practice, we're teaching the base runners, because a situation happened with bases loaded and a softly hit ball, and it allows 2 runs to score, because if that ball was hit too hard, the runner from second doesn't get to advance to home, because the center fielder would have fielded it cleanly and would have stopped that play. We're teaching base runners like, hey, left is right, right is left. The ball hit in front of you to the right sends you back to the bag. The ball to your left, takes you forward, and you're allowed to move up to the next bag. But you have to freeze on anything in the air with 0 outs and all these different things. And we're like, hey, this is a mathematical process where you just go, if A, then B. And it eliminates all of the myriad variables that exist within the game. I still think it's the hardest game in the world to play because of all the variables. And like, just going back to Fluff Bill, yeah, it's repetition, man. It's taking pride in it. And you literally have to program yourself to go against what your nature is sometimes in order to do the job that needs to be done.
That makes absolute sense. And, Will, speaking of the segue, that was great because I didn't even really have to do it, which is thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. But what you were talking about was the Desert Invitational. You were on the call with Joe Borchard. And there's a Pulse and Joe Borchard story in here, but we'll get to that later.
Fantastical.
We will.
The Somerset Patriots, baby.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
Oh, man. But, Will, you had said that you had seen a few things that were head scratchers, to say the least, in this tournament. So let's get you to expound on that a little bit. I mean, and again, it comes down to fundamentals and thought process. And you had mentioned a couple pitching sequences that were just bizarre. They were just bizarre in text message. So, I mean, I can't imagine sitting there trying to call it without a stream of expletives coming out of your mouth over the air.
Yeah, it was a little difficult, and I'm not gonna go into that one specific one just because it could blow that kid up.
Sure.
And end up costing him some money and some heartache. But overall, if we're talking about fundamentals, and I saw one from Clint Hurdle the other day. It was like, make fundamentals fun again. And it's like,
I love it.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic because you're like, what? Hey, man, and I said this to my younger team. I was like, look, fundamentals early help you learn the game.
100%.
Okay, when you're 6 to 8 years old, you have to learn the game. Okay, when you become a 14, 15-year-old and you're trying to make a high school team, okay, fundamentals keep you in the game. They keep you with a chance to have a jersey on. And then when you get to that space where you're pushing to college, to pro ball, to then higher levels of pro ball, fundamentals keep you in the game and become the game. They become it. They become so exploded that anything that isn't routinely done right becomes a cost, and it becomes millions of dollars worth of cost. If you look at what the average win costs for an organization. So I'm watching this college tournament, and it was mathematically proven. I called 6 games. There was only one game where the teams pushed in walks. And so the fundamental for a pitcher is throw strikes. You got to throw strikes. Okay. Fill up the zone with as many strikes as possible, because as soon as the hitter swings, he puts himself at a disadvantage. Even if your batting average on a ball in play is 400, that's still a 60% odds that you're going to get the guy out. Mm-hmm. And I always joke that as a pitcher, if you suck, you have a 300 batting average against, which means that you succeeded 70% of the time. If I go to Vegas and I throw down 500 on red, and you tell me that I have 70% odds of winning, yeah, I'm going to make that bet. Okay, so throwing strikes is fundamental. So we had a game that was 7 walks to no walks. Guess which team won?
The no walk.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, 10 walks to no walks. 3 walks to 7 walks. 3 walks to 7 walks. All the teams with less walks, aside from the game that pushed, the team that walked the least amount of people, shockingly won the game.
Not surprising.
No, it's not surprising. And then the other thing that just blew my mind, and there's statistical evidence to prove this. If you're able to throw breaking pitches, off-speed pitches behind in the count with success, 2-0, 3-0, 2-1 in those leverage counts, if you're able to throw breaking balls in the zone, you get outs, and you become even more powerful than that 70% success rate. The problem is that those are the least percentage pitches thrown for a strike. So you can train it all you like, but now you're playing 2 different odds. You're like, I'm truly gambling at that point, because the major league fastball in the zone last year, the major league fastball rate in the zone last year, I want to say was 49%. So that means over 50% of the fastballs thrown were not in the zone. So if hitters actually just stood up there and took, like, you remember that guy from the Dodgers last year who went into spring training and all he did for like the first 10 games was take, and he had like a 700 on base percentage.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, that is true. Like, it's really, really hard to throw a strike. Like, I'm not taking away from that. It's hard. You have to practice a ton. So the hitter can completely change the game just by not swinging.
I see that a lot where especially when I played, I was watching guys pitching and realize this guy's struggling a little bit. And I would try to tell guys, and they think I was crazy. Like, I bet you he throws 4 before he throws 3. Why are we swinging? What are we swinging at? Why don't we let him dig himself into a hole a little bit? And we get so interested in as hitters, they want to hit.
Yeah, hitters are greedy.
Sometimes they get lost in the fact of not understanding what they're seeing right now. And I guess it's because they haven't stood on the mound enough. When you're reeling and you're having a hard time throwing strikes, like you said, it's hard enough to throw strikes when you're feeling really, really good. It's hard to do. When you're feeling a little shitty out there, it gets even that much harder. And you see hitters just consistently want to swing the bat instead of letting the pitcher dig himself in a grave. I was always a big fan when I was teaching my kids and coaching travel ball, as my kids went through, the stand up in the front of the batter's box and stand and hang your elbows over the dish. When you got to realize this guy's struggling. He's going to put you on base somehow, some way. So go ahead. Don't be afraid to take some pitches sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, and I like what, Will, I like what you said, the hitters are greedy. But you do see so many guys, even at the major league level, who are just going to take a weak swing at a slider down and away from them. And it very well could have been ball 4. And that is just, it is a greedy mentality, honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, they always chirp at a guy who takes too many pitches, and he says, nobody walks to the Hall of Fame. But if you go back to the Moneyball thing with Billy Beane, it was like, the Brad Pitt sequence where all the scouts are sitting at the table, and somebody's like, well, why do we want this guy? Like, because he gets on base. And getting on base is a hard enough proposition to begin with. And truly, every pitcher who's been at the major league level will tell you that if hitters just took, we'd walk the house. And if you need video proof of that in the current day, all you need to watch is a recruiting video. Any of the ones that are on Twitter or Instagram, you just watch them and just count how many of those pitches are actually in the zone.
Yeah.
Hitters are greedy.
Can I add just a little bit about the breaking ball that you were talking about? Because I think it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, the 2-1 behind the count breaking ball. The true gambling.
Even if just throwing a breaking ball for a strike, especially at the younger ages. We give lessons, both of us. So what I see all the time when I say, okay, first things first, we're going to play catch with our breaking ball. Not enough young pitchers play catch with their breaking ball, which again is a fundamental. I'm a firm believer in you learn your pitches on flat ground and then you bring your pitches to the mound and then you try to execute your pitches. So breaking balls, and I know you see this too, Will. We get the guy up on the mound right away. He wants to throw a breaking ball. First thing he does is, let's say it's a right-handed pitcher. He misses short and left in the left-handed batter's box. And I'm telling him, I'm like, well, what were you thinking with that pitch? Well, I was thinking getting it down and away. And I asked him, let's say it's a 13-year-old. So he's just started throwing a breaking ball within the last year or two. And I asked him, do you hit? Yeah, I hit. Do you like hitting breaking balls? No, I don't like hitting breaking balls. And I tell him, no one likes hitting breaking balls. So what I find in the teaching of the breaking ball is because you start to learn it at 11 and 12 years old, when do you throw it? You throw it 0-2, you throw it 1-2. So you're throwing it down and away in the dirt, looking for a swing and a miss. I think that's putting it backwards, where if you're young, you can't hit a breaking ball anyway. Why don't we teach throwing the breaking ball for a strike originally, for a strike, and then worry about dumping it into the dirt to try to get the swing and a miss? Because chances are, if you're throwing it to an 11, 12, 13-year-old hitter, he's not going to be able to hit it anyway. So, and then when you get a little bit older and you get into sophomore, junior, senior in high school, moving on to college, those counts that you're talking about, those leverage counts, are ones that you can win on pitch selection as opposed to pitch location. And I'm throwing you the pitch that I'm not thinking you're going to be swinging at, and I need to be able to throw it over the dish and not bounce it in the left-handed batter's box, because that's the only one I ever practice is my 2-strike hammer that I'm trying to get the swing and a miss, to punch him out or, to ring him up. So I think that's something that gets lost on pitchers, young pitchers, is learn how to throw your breaking ball for a strike first, and then go on to working on the 2-strike breaking ball that you're bouncing in and trying to get the swing and a miss.
Yep. I always do that with guys. I've done it with pro guys. I was like, look, the purpose of this pitch is we actually want to get it to the catcher. I want him to catch this.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, what about the shape, or what about this? Or I got to get a swing and miss. No, get it to him. And this is an idea stolen from all of our good buddy Wayne Franklin. Like, if you throw a high breaking ball, you just threw it too far. If you throw a low breaking ball, you didn't throw it far enough. It's like, and it sits in that premise of like, I got to get it to the catcher, and then we'll find out what it looks like and how to use it and move it around. And again, this goes back to this whole fundamental thing. Like, the lamest stuff you'll ever see on a baseball field occurs in college baseball. Just all the different skits going on that are just garbage and whatever. And everybody's got their own little warm-up routine. And you get to the College World Series and you got teddy bears in there that are for good luck, or somebody's washing hair, or they, whatever it is. Ohio State was doing something it's the most ridiculous looking thing I've ever seen. The pitchers were throwing, and then they had all the fielders in groups of 4 in these squares. And one guy would just throw a ball on the ground like a ground ball, to the guy next to him. And the guy next to him would run in and pick it and then throw it off angle to the guy across from him. And then it would just repeat. And it looked like just the lamest drill possible. And a couple of guys in the booth with me were lamenting it. Like, I mean, I saw metal fungo bats. I mean, if that isn't annoying, I don't know what is. And then even worse, bonus points for annoying, was the metal fungo bat that had the barrel taped.
Oh yeah. You don't want to ruin that barrel, man. You don't want
to. Can't. Got to make it. Got to make it snazzy. Somebody's hacking on Ohio State, and I go, you know how many times a day that throw is made by an infielder? Once. It's made once a day when they take infield and they do the ground ball, and then they come and get it.
Yeah.
They do the ground ball and then they come and get it. And so they practice once a day doing an off balance in, bare hand or field it and throw off balance throw. And I was like, it looks terrible, but they just increased their reps about 10 to 20 a day. And you then explode that over a 3-month season. And you go, oh, we got 1,000 more reps than the other team at this. And we don't make errors as a result.
Oh, ugly, but effective.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. So we're getting a little bit close to time here, but I did want to just bring up that little story with Pulse and your guy, Joe Borchard. I don't know, Pulse, do you remember this? I know we kind of talked about it last night a little bit, but do you remember this happening?
I don't remember it. I don't, but I think it is absolutely hilarious for both of us in a way. But let's let Will tell the story, and we'll
go ahead, Will, and then I'll run the pitch clock on you guys.
Yeah, as the innocent bystander between these two parties. And Joe, to his credit, on the air, he goes, he probably doesn't remember it, but this actually happened. And Joe's got an impeccable memory. And so I looked it up, and it occurred in 2011 in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the Bridgeport Bluefish versus the Somerset Patriots. Yeah. And so we're talking about it, and this is on the heels of a guy throws an 83-mile-an-hour cement mixer, and it's just a swing and miss by the batter. And Joe just goes, yep, that's a great feeling right there. That's a great feeling. Nothing like 83 by you, and you got no answers for it. And it's like, it's a unicorn of pitches is the cement mixer slider, because there's nothing a hitter can do. And he goes, now, this reminds me of a game I played, and Bill Pulsipher was on the mound. He goes, and he threw me a cutter, and I hit it to that Budweiser sign, at the stadium we were at. And this Budweiser sign is about 1,000 feet away from home plate.
Oh my goodness.
He goes, it was in truth, it was about 430, but nonetheless, pull side. And Joe had pop. He still has the longest ball I've ever seen hit in person, and I'm just glad it wasn't off me. So he hits this ball, and he goes, unfortunately, it's on the wrong side of the foul pole. And he goes, at that time, I just realized if I can't keep that ball fair, I don't deserve to be here. No, so this is the Atlantic League. It's independent ball. Joe's trying to work his way back. But he just has this moment of clarity. He's like, if I can't keep that ball fair, I just don't deserve to be here. So he says he goes into the manager's office after BP, Willie Upshaw, longtime manager, and big league guy. He goes in, he goes, up, I'm done. I'm done. So the next day he's, Willie says, hey, come back to the yard. He goes, okay. They go take BP the next day, and he goes, yeah, I'm done. And so Joe says, he's out mingling with people, saying goodbyes and whatnot. And he goes up to Pulse face to face and says, yeah, man. I don't. And Pulse says, yeah, you hanging him up? Yeah, I heard you hanging him up. And he goes, yeah, if I can't keep that ball fair that you threw me, I'm saying I don't deserve to be here.
Oh God.
So in the same breath, he kicks Pulse right in the nuts and says, you're worthless. And he at the same time sticks a feather in his hat and goes, I'm more worthless because you ended me.
Oh God. Oh my God. And Bill, you don't remember this at all, huh?
I can't say I remember it perfectly, but the more that I've heard the story now for the third time, it is kind of coming back to me a little bit. And it's funny because in 2011 was the last year I played, and I was dealing with a torn labrum.
And apparently the last year that Joe played.
Well, I made it to the end of the season at least. I made it past that day there at the Bluefish Stadium. But
good for you.
I was dealing with the torn labrum that year. I was at the end of my rope. I was 37 years old. I was doing whatever I could to just hang on and play, because obviously you love playing, and it's what we do and what we did for a long time. But I found it funny that my 82, 83 mile an hour cutter that didn't cut, and that's what a cement mixer is. That's a breaking pitch that just spins and doesn't do anything. And it was just bad enough to have somebody have to feel that they needed to retire. But I thought it was funny because at the end of the best way to describe my career was kind of described in that season, because at the end of the year, somehow, some way, I ended up with exactly a 4.00 earned run average for the year. And my big saying that whole year was par for the course. Par. Just put me down for a 4. Put me down for a 4. That's a par. I got a. And it comes down to the end of that year, and I'll be damned if I didn't end up with exactly a 4.00 earned run average in 2011. And then went right into labrum surgery at the end of the year, and that was it for me. But thank you, Joe, for making me feel good and bad about myself all in the same story.
and to boot. So he changed it right then, and he and I have a great relationship, goes back 20 years. And that's the relationship that ball players who have done it for a long time, had the privilege of playing. Like, we'll cut you down to size. If you're feeling good about yourself, let me make sure that you're not.
We'll let you know.
and so he tells this story about, you know, how he moves here to Phoenix and all this stuff. And first time I come over to his house, and we got some friends over there, there's a guest there, and I see the jersey hanging up on the wall, and it's his White Sox jersey. And I just ask him, and he goes, and he's like, I can see the smile, you know, just creeping onto his face. And he's like, I know what's coming, but, you know, but I made sure the guest heard it. I was like, yeah, you got the White Sox jersey there, huh? And he goes, yeah, you see it hanging. And I said, so why don't you have your Stanford one from when you were good?
Oh, God.
And it just made sure there was an audience and whatnot. And, you know, and he paid no attention to it. He just redirected the conversation. I didn't hear from him again. On that topic until yesterday. And that was like 3 or 4 months past.
He chalked it away. He chalked it away in his memory.
Yeah, I buckled him on that 83 cement mixer, you know, on that one. And it just, I crushed his soul, and it felt good. And, so I'm waiting for payback. He's probably gonna.
Oh, it'll happen.
Bury me. Oh, he's burying me with something.
Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that will happen. Well, listen, guys, it's about that time, and since I already got you guys each about food with the pitch clock here, I just have 3 weird ones that I'm going to ask you that I've been thinking of as we've been going. I'll start with Bill. You get a quick answer. Will, you get a quick answer, and we'll just go through all 3. These have nothing to do with food for once.
Okay.
So we're going to go. Ready?
I'm out. No.
It's ticking. Okay. Since we were talking about fielding as a pitcher, Bill, who's the best fielding pitcher you have ever seen?
Oh, it's got to be Maddox. And, you know, it's got to be. He was one of those rare guys that did do the quote-unquote land on in a good fielding position. And he was very good at it. You know, and the Gold Gloves speak for themselves.
True. Will?
I'm going to go Mike Hampton.
Ooh, nice. Good one.
Most athletic fielder.
Good one.
Right. Nice. Okay, Bill, you ready? Okay, since we were talking about PFPs, what in spring training, your least favorite drill?
Least favorite drill. You know what? I really backing up bases, I would say, you know, because that means you felt you even though you weren't actually making the throw, that meant that you gave up something in the gap somewhere. Because I did enjoy the thing, you're doing it. Obviously, covering first base a million times, it's boring. But doing the different bunt plays and all that was always fun, because I was always trying to figure out how can I make a throw a different way and put myself in a position. But backing up bases is never good, because that means you're giving up doubles and triples.
Will, same question. Least favorite drill?
Yeah, I'm going to go with I suck practice was not fun. You know, backing up bases. Yeah, that was not a hoot. I personally didn't like the play that I never had to make, which was the first and second bunt play down third baseline, where I had to run over to the third baseline and make the throw to third.
That's funny, because that was my favorite.
So it became my favorite at the end when I discovered, like, hey, there's a way for me to do this. And I practiced it just like that Ohio State thing. I practiced an off-balance thing because it would consistently happen every time I do it. I'd run over to third base and I'd try to gather my feet underneath me, and then I'd lose my footing, like easily 50% of the time. trying to gather myself and then make that good throw. And I figured out a way where I could just field it and run through it and do it on the fly like a left-handed shortstop.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, now I'm in a rhythm. And it had been years of coaching that I'd been told, like, you have to do it this way. And I'm like, you know what? That way doesn't work for me. I have to be uncharacteristically athletic here. So here goes. And that was, and then it became my showpiece.
Right. That's so funny.
Old man Ohman covering third. And it was just like, boom. And everybody's like, what? Where'd that come from? I
love being in first and second. I felt like I had a good chance of getting it out. You know, I felt like I was going to get the guy in third base because I would throw that backdoor cutter that he's trying to bunt to third base. And hopefully he leaves it out somewhere close to the mound and we can get that guy and throw it on the run.
What's crazy is I never had that play occur to me once in my career.
But you did it a million times.
Absolutely. I was ready for it. And if one happened to me tomorrow in beer league softball or whatever, I'd come over there like a left-handed shortstop and I'd get the sucker at third.
All right. Last but not least, gentlemen, who is your favorite coach for PFPs? Bill, you know, we'll start with you, but it doesn't have to be, you know, the guy who was
to be honest with you, because of the amount of, I did 3 years of instructional league, and Jesus was there every single year, and he was honestly, even though he did break the man's board ball, he was a big reason as to why I took my PFP so seriously, because you knew you had to, and you had to be ready, because it was one of two things. Either you were going to get whacked with the ball or you were going to be running out to center field and back over and over again. So I would say I enjoyed doing it with Jesus Hernandez because he made me and taught me how to take the fundamentals of PFP seriously and to make you understand that those outs need to be outs and we need to get those outs. You know, the ball doesn't leave the infield. We need to make an out.
Will, same question. Favorite coach for PFP? Who?
Shocker, I've got a long form answer. Okay.
Oh, I'm going to need a long song for this one.
Okay, here you go. So first answer is Roger McDowell, just because he'd make fun of all of us. He was fantastic. Okay. The best guy to actually teach me PFP was Jerry Royce, long time Dodger Cardinal guy, because when I had him in AAA, he would hit PFP fungo to us in the outfield during BP every single day. He'd just walk through the outfield and start hitting guys PFP, and he'd just try to see how many in a row you can get. And some of them would be lollipops and candy hops, and some of them would be scud missiles off your shin. And as soon as you caught one off the shin, he'd scream, "We've got bone!" But it became this running contest in the drudgery of AAA, where it's like, hey, can I get 50 in a row? Can I get 100 in a row? And it became this kind of, you know, sense of pride thing. And then lastly, I go with every organization has one fungo wizard, just the guy who's just amazing with it. And the best I've ever seen is during my time coaching with the Cardinals was Jose Akendo. Like, I've never seen anybody work a fungo like that dude.
Gentlemen, we are definitely out of time, so I want to say thank you to Bill Pulsipher and Will Ohman for coming back and talking a little fundamentals. So, ladies and gentlemen,
make fundamentals fun.
Thank you. In the immortal words of Clint Hurdle, make fundamentals fun again. But Bill, thank you. Will, thank you. And we'll catch you next time here on Totally Baseless. And remember, baseball is fundamental.